What's up, everybody, and welcome to an all-new episode of Casters of Horror. I'm Chris Mess.
I'm Shane, and this week we hail to the guardians of the watchtowers of the 90s with The Craft.
Holy crap, it seems like you planned that out.
I don't know, did I?
I don't plan anything on this podcast. Is that written somewhere?
No,
Did you write? Did you
I
write
always feel
that
like
down?
I have to have something to say at the beginning.
Well
Unless
then.
I just really don't care. Go back and watch some of our old episodes. You'll tell when I just really don't care.
Yeah, it's like, I'm Shane, and here's the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, hey, we're in week 4 of Pride Month. Happy Pride once again. We decided to end off the month with a classic, one of the most well-known sapphic, if you will, stories of horror. And that film, of course, is The Craft, like Shane so deftly said a few moments ago. This film, it's not a new one by any stretch of the means.
Oh, no. It is very, very 90s, and very obviously 90s right into the opening credits.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it. But we are going to get a little bit more in depth into this episode than we do on some of our other films, since it is an older film. But anyway,
going on 30 years.
I know it was 96 is when it came out, I believe. This was a film written and directed, directed by Andrew Fleming, also written by Andrew Fleming and Peter Filardi. It stars, get ready for it, here we go, going to run down the IMDb list because it's a long one. Robin Tunney, Fairuza Balk, Rachel True, Nev Campbell, Skeet Ulrich, both of Scream fame in this one. Christine Taylor, Breckin Meyer, and everybody's favorite dad of the 90s, Cliff DeYoung. So he played like everybody's dad in the 90s. But yeah, it was just a list of people. Brenda Strong also in it, is just a smaller part. But yeah, there's all sorts of people in this film. In going back and watching it, I was like, oh my word, I forgot some of these people were in here.
Yeah.
Shane and I have both seen this film prior. So we're not going to pretend like, oh, we've never seen it. Let's give you our first review. So this one is not new to us. However, we wanted to give way to a classic. This film, since we were talking about it with Pride, not necessarily overtly LGBTQ. However, it has become a cult classic in that community because of the fact of outcasts, queerness, in not just sexual queerness, but also even though there is a lot of there's kissing and things like that between girls and all that, but still it's I mean, that's one of the reasons why they classify it as it too. But also when you're dealing with witches and covens and things like that, they have a certain bond. And really, to be honest with you, we're all looking for a bond with somebody. So that's just kind of what made this film a cult hit in the LGBTQ community. So, I mean, it's not overtly out there or anything like that, but it's just become a classic. Let's see. Speaking of, what was I going to say?
I don't know.
Speaking of some things that are destined to be classics, before we jump into this film, I want to give a shout out to our this week's sponsor. That was a horrible segue, but we got a sponsor, people. This week we're sponsored by Angry Queer brand. If you guys aren't familiar with them, they are a clothing brand. They have decided to help us out and sponsor the podcast, and we wanted to get their name out as well. Go ahead and check out their website. It's angryqueerbrand.com. You can find all sorts of clothing there, even if you aren't queer, but you are an ally, or just somebody who wants to get the word out how angry we are at, you know, being segregated or being laws put upon the community that, you know, trample upon our rights. Go check them out. Give them some support. It's angryqueerbrand.com. They've got all sorts of shirts, hats, hoodies, and they're really, really good price too. So check them out. Let them know that Casters of Horror sent you. They'd love to hear from you. So thank you again for Angry Queer for being a sponsor this week. Now on to the film, The Craft. I remember seeing the posters for this when I was a teenager,
Yeah.
up at the video stores and stuff. The video store kids back in our day, they had these stores,
Your video cassettes.
video cassettes and VHSs and whatnot. But yeah, they. I remember seeing the posters up for it, and I was like, "What is that movie?" And then growing up,
Yeah.
very, very religious as I did, that was definitely a film that was like very not watchable in
Oh yeah.
while
Yeah,
I was growing up. So
this is one of those that became part of the conversation as just one of those evil, vile,
yes,
satanic things that they're trying to subvert our youth with. So
yeah. Yeah. And if you're angry with them subverting our youth in other ways, check out angryqueer.brand.com.
yeah,
Plug them back again. But yeah, I remember when this film came out.
yeah.
It wasn't until many years later that I was able to check it out myself and
Same,
watched it.
same.
As soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, no wonder why this is a classic. No wonder why this is incredible. Starts out with Robin Tunney, where she moves to a new town. I believe it's in California somewhere. And she meets three girls at her new high school, which is Fruza Balk, Nev Campbell, and Rachel True. And they are wannabe witches at this point. They're
Yeah,
practicing witches at this point.
yeah.
Um,
And you can tell because they all wear black and dark makeup and they're goth, and so they must be
they're goth.
witches.
They must be witches.
But they are.
And the fact that Skeet Ulrich is like, don't mess with them, they're witches. So
Yeah,
we get
there is
told
that.
that right off the bat.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, witches at a Catholic school too. So
yeah,
it's
Catholic
ooh.
school, even more so. So anyway,
Incidentally, another reason that both you and I would have been banned from watching this movie. Just
Catholicism.
yeah,
Yay. But the girls, the three need a fourth for their coven, covering all four corners of the earth and all four of the elements, so that they can effectively work their magic.
yeah,
Um, the Robin Tunney seems to have natural gifts, so they bring her in, and magic begins. Magic happens, uh, and in all sorts of ways.
yeah,
um, but and then, of course, as the film goes on, we get some jealousy, some rage, and it leads to quite a climactic ending,
yeah.
which is really, really good.
And they
And
kind
then
of they kind of establish right off the bat too that these three girls that she hooks up with are not necessarily good people, right? I mean, they're stealing from the very beginning, right?
they are
And
stealing. They are
yeah,
stealing. They're
and
very much outcasts. I mean,
yeah,
they are the outcasts, but they are segregating themselves to that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
like you said, yeah, they're stealing. They're lying. We lie, we cheat, we steal.
yeah.
Um,
Arguably
so
getting into some of the the darker,
yeah,
what would be considered darker or black magic. Even
yeah,
though appreciatively, one of the characters in the movie is like there's no black and white to magic itself. It's all
yeah,
in the person.
yep,
It's all in the witch or whatever. However she
yeah.
puts that.
Yeah. I do
Yeah.
have to point out an amazing soundtrack. A very, very
Oh yeah.
90s,
Oh yeah.
but a great soundtrack nonetheless.
Yeah, and that's
Um,
like I pointed at, like at the beginning too when I said how the movie starts. It starts with some chanting, and then one of the girls looks into the camera and suddenly cuts to like this cloud shot with this like ultra like
lightning.
hard rock going on,
Yeah.
and yeah, you see these flashes of all these like different like frankly satanic imagery because
Yeah.
there seems to be this like very much tying witchcraft to
Satanism.
like to Satanism, which
Yeah.
is
Two
not
separate things.
necessarily accurate, but is definitely a very '90s depiction of witchcraft. So
And if you guys want to get more into the occult and more into things random and stuff like that, put in the comments down below. And while you're down there, make sure to hit like and subscribe. Put down in the comments down below if you guys want us to bring our old podcast back where we talk about stuff like that quite a bit.
yeah,
Good old Audio Chaos podcast, where we talked about the occult and we talked about religion and we talked about anything that was pretty much in those veins. But let us know if you
yeah,
guys are interested in that sort of stuff, because that's something that when Shane and I both got out of the religious aspect of life, we both kind of studied the studied all sorts of other things. So just to
yeah,
kind of be well versed in what we know and why. So
yeah.
let us know down in the comments down below. But yes, I digress. let's continue on with the film. But so like you said, the satanic imagery, the flashing, and then it comes up the craft,
yeah,
and it's very very 90s
yeah.
graphics. So um but yeah, so your first opinions on this film when you first saw it, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think this is one of those that I think I probably saw, like you said, well after it had already released.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure my wife and I were already married at that point, and I watched it with her, or we were at least dating. Um, so I saw it with her, and like this is the sort of film that was very, very foreign to me, just because of the subject matter,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think when I first saw it, I was still quite religious, but
Mm.
not to the point where something like this would have been like, oh, I can't watch this, because I think they're religious though I was still very much able to separate, my belief system from entertainment, right? Um,
Okay.
and I mean, I loved this movie from the first time I saw it. And even not like being super familiar with any of the cast, I loved the cast of this film,
Yeah.
right? Looking back now, of course, I see how amazing it was, but even back then, I loved it. Really well acted,
Yeah.
Um, I loved like how, even though it's very much the whole like '90s aesthetic,
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was great as far as I don't want to say like CGI because there really wasn't any, but like
Yeah.
the effects in this film, at
Yeah.
least dated now, but at the time, pretty good. You
Very
know,
dated now. Very
yeah,
dated.
very dated now. It's funny. There's this one scene where I've always been like, it couldn't be more obvious that Robin Tunney was wearing a wig, right? And it's where she does that hair thing and she turns her hair blonde,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like, oh, okay, that's not very good because that's so obviously a wig.
Yeah.
Joke's on me though, because apparently Robin Tunney wore a wig for the entirety of this film because she had shaved her head for another film she was doing. So
She did. And if anybody can guess what that film is, put it down in the comments down below.
yeah,
Because I am very familiar with that film. In fact, it's one of my favorite films of all time. So
really, okay. I don't think I've ever
put it
seen it.
down. Put it down in the comments down below if you guys know what film that is. Because I'd love to see what you guys think
Yeah,
and see if you guys can guess which one it is. So,
yeah,
um, yeah,
huh.
yeah. I remember when I first saw this one. Again, it was much later, but it. What's funny is going back and watching it again for this. It felt like it was a part of my childhood.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it was like going back and watching something that I was very, very familiar with, which was weird.
yeah.
Um, but it just had all those feels to it for me. So,
Hmm.
and I had seen it the first time long after I'd seen Scream.
Oh, okay.
Some of the earlier Scream films with Nev Campbell, and so it was
Yeah,
weird to go back and see her, much younger and all that sort of stuff, and Skeet Ulrich, and
yeah.
but yeah, when I first saw this film, I absolutely fell in love with it.
Uh-huh.
Just every aspect of it. And still going back and watching it now, it like I said, it makes me feel like a kid again. And
Uh-huh.
just watching it in part of my childhood, it seems like almost. But
Yeah,
um, it, I love the fact that it's they do take that outcast position and really run with it. I mean, that's a big part of the storyline
yeah,
is them being the outcasts and them being these the queerish sort, and them basically getting revenge on people,
yeah,
which
yeah,
leads to big issues later on. Because even
yeah,
like the lady at the occult store tells them, look, it'll come back to you three times, whatever you do to somebody else,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so
And that's another interesting thing about this film too. Is at least from my perspective, I will say that I think it probably plays into the sort of like satanic panic of the 80s and 90s, right? With its depiction of witchcraft.
mhm.
Um, well, with some of its depiction, right? Because I will also say that this is probably the first film that or the first media of any kind that I interacted with where witchcraft wasn't presented as solely evil,
Mm.
right? I mean, because obviously you and I both grew up in a situation where witchcraft was 100% evil
Oh
and
yeah,
satanic, right?
I
And
I
so,
grew up around witches and witches covens and stuff like that. So I
right,
mean, they
right,
were a lot around the area where I grew up.
yeah,
So yeah, it was very much an evil
yeah,
thing from.
very an evil thing. And so this was, I think, really my first exposure to the idea that it wasn't right. So that was like an interesting thing for me, and may have been one of the first things that allowed me to actually start looking into things beyond just what I was told, right,
Okay.
and start understanding the perspectives of other people.
It
So
got you into watching like uh oh, I totally blanked out on the name. What was that show with Alyssa Milano
oh,
and
Charmed.
Charmed? Yeah. I was like, I know it starts with a C and I can't
This
remember what it
is
was.
way better than anything Charmed ever put out.
but but yeah, I love this film.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
It's one of my favorites. It's definitely a classic.
Uh,
Um, I mean, if you were to say, pick from a list of films and make your top 100, I mean, it's in there for me for sure.
yeah,
Um,
certainly at the very least, like one of the great '90s films, I would say.
oh yeah, oh
So
yeah, hands
yeah,
down. But let us know what you guys thought of the craft in the comments, and put it down, down below. While you're there, make sure to hit like and subscribe. And let us know how this movie resonated with you. Where you find yourself on the spectrum of uh, of this film and in life. So let
yeah.
us know what you guys think and how we did with this Pride Month. We wanted to represent as well as we could, and not do anything to humiliate the community or anything like that. So anyway, let us know down in the comments down below. And like I said, make sure to hit like and subscribe and hit that bell that's over Shane's face because that always
Dang.
ding that'll let you guys know when we come out with anything new. Speaking of anything new, we will be jumping into a new film next week.
Yep.
because we are out of Pride Month, alas.
Yep. Maybe
But we,
catching up, with some more
yeah,
recent
some more
offerings.
recent films that are going to be coming out. So we've already got a few of them in line. If you guys have any more that you want us to check out, make sure you put that down in the comments as well. And also make sure you guys check out our sponsor for this week, angryqueerbrand.com. They said that they're up to sponsoring a few of our things. So you guys will see them come up every so often on this channel. So that's pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah.
So we appreciate that from them. So anyway, yeah. Did you have anything else to say about the craft? Because
I know it's a
go
classic. I could watch it over and over.
yeah, go watch it if you
Uh,
haven't checked it out. I highly suggest it. Great film.
I can't speak to the more recent sequel. Have never seen it. Can't say I
I
intend to, but whatever.
had considered doing the Craft Legacy, which was the
Yeah.
sequel to it. However, we wanted to leave off Pride Month on a good note.
Yes.
Because we've heard some things about it that maybe made it not so great. But who knows? Maybe we'll check it out. Maybe we'll we kind of want to start doing some more shorts and stuff like that on the
Yeah.
channel. And for some other things that we've watched, and do some quick 1 minute reviews and stuff like that on some things. So maybe we'll get around to doing that here at some point, and that'll be one of our films that we do on there. Anyway, we appreciate you guys checking out the channel. We appreciate you guys checking out the video. Make sure to check out one of these videos that's right below me right now. I think that's the last video that we did. So make sure you guys check it out. So anyway, until next week, people, I'm Chris Mess.
I'm Shane.
Happy
See ya.
Pride. We'll see you guys.